Hello, members, and welcome to the Northeast Georgia History Center's super secret time laboratory. Well, maybe not super secret, because this is the same time lab that we use for our free webcast for Georgia schools and homeschool groups. So today we are going to time travel back to the year 1744 in the colony of Georgia to meet a fascinating woman named Mary Musgrove. When we arrive at Mary's trading post, she will be expecting us, and we'll ask Mary questions about her life and work in the colony, and then we'll travel back to our time to discuss her legacy. But before we do, I'd like to give you some context for our meeting. So, the colony of Georgia was founded in 1733 by General James Oglethorpe, a British military leader, social reformer, and a member of Parliament. We have a great program by Glenn about James Oglethorpe where you can learn the details of his life in establishing the colony, but we'll focus on his work with Mary Musgrove today. When Oglethorpe arrived in Georgia, he was in need of a translator. Mary Musgrove had already established her trading post near the Savannah River around 1717 and was recommended to Oglethorpe as a good interpreter because she was of Yamacraw and English descent, educated, and connected to the locals through her trading post. This was perfect for Oglethorpe because he wanted to establish peaceful relationships with the Yamacraw Creek Indians already living in the Savannah area. It was not unusual for Native American women to marry white traders. This was often a mutually beneficial relationship for the white trader and the tribe because it established a direct connection to trade goods and fair negotiation, with the native wife acting as translator and mediator. But Mary had the benefit of understanding both Yamacraw and European culture, having been the daughter of a white fur trader, and she clearly had a keen sense for business. So let's meet Mary Musgrove and ask her some questions about her life to learn even more. Are you ready? All right, here we go.
Good day to you, travelers. I'm Mary Musgrove, your hostess. I'm so glad to see that the roads were not too rough for your safe passage. Welcome to my trading post. Should you require anything at all, just ask and I'm likely to have it. Of course, I know that you have not come here to trade. You've come here for information. Well, you've made the right choice by coming here. My trading post is much more than a place to purchase goods. It's where many people gather to meet, talk, discuss the news, learn from each other, and seek advice. My husband tells me that you would like to know about our Georgia colony and its people. I am one of its people, but I come from two different cultures. I told you that my name is Mary, but I actually have two names. Mary is my English name. Kusaponakisa is my Creek name, and it is the name I have had the longest. I am of both English and Creek Indian heritage, and this has been a great benefit to me in my life. When working as a trader among the European settlers and the native tribes, it is most convenient to speak English and the Muskogee language of the Creeks. Can you imagine trying to make a good deal with someone you cannot understand? It's more likely to become an argument and no deal at all. I have my mother to thank for my Creek culture and my father for his English heritage. I doubt they ever expected me, a woman, to become such a successful trader, interpreter, and negotiator. But they were the ones who provided me with the skills to do so. My earliest days were spent with the Creek Nation. I am sad to say that my mother died when I was very young. I lived with my grandmother and learned the customs and traditions of the Creeks, and I was fully accepted as part of the Creek Nation. My father, the English trader, traveled many days of the year for his business. I did not see him very often until I was old enough to travel with him. I recall the many trips we made between the Indian and settler towns. I was fascinated by my father's work. He met so many different people and had so many interesting tools, food, and materials that he traded. It was all so exciting that I wanted to be a trader too. But Not just anybody can become a trader. You must have special permission if you want your post to be on Indian lands. I, being of Indian blood, and my husband being married to me, meant we were granted extra special permission to set up our trading post on Yamacraw Bluff. This was the perfect location for our trading post, as it was near the port of Savannah, where all the ships would bring the goods from Europe and beyond. The items that are most often brought in for trade by the Indians are furs, such as this. The white settlers will most often bring goods, such as metal pots, guns, and other useful metal tools that the Indians do not create themselves. I wonder what you think is more expensive, a metal pot or a rifle? You might be surprised to learn that the metal pot is more expensive than the rifle. To make something out of metal takes a great deal of work and a special process called blacksmithing, which heats up the metal so hot that it can be shaped and bent. It takes a skilled artisan to make fine metal goods, and blacksmithing is not a tradition in the native tribes. Therefore, many of the natives like trading for a metal pot to replace their clay pot, which can easily break. The white settlers often want to trade furs, especially deerskin. Deerskin is highly valued for its leather, which can be made into goods like satchels and gloves, shoes, and many other items. I would wager that 12,000 pounds of deerskin was traded at my post alone last year. Deerskin, without its fur like this one, is even more valuable. This deerskin leather can be made into all of the items that I mentioned. It can be made into gloves, satchels, and frocks. Other items are decorative, like these beautiful blue beads. Glass beads are very valuable because they are often from Europe and made with a special process, requiring much heat and artistry. So you see, it takes a great deal of knowledge and skills to be a good trader. Oftentimes, you are more than someone who supplies others with goods. You are an advisor, a messenger, an interpreter, a mediator between parties, and we are viewed as ambassadors, someone who represents a community. When the colony of Georgia was established, a great man by the name of General James Oglethorpe was to oversee the peaceful settlement of the Savannah town. That meant creating treaties or agreements with the local Indian tribes. I was recommended to the general for my skills. In fact, I was the interpreter for the very first meeting between General Oglethorpe and the Yamacraw Chief Tomochichi. During the general's negotiations, he established an alliance, an agreement to help one another. General Oglethorpe asked for the Yamacraw's permission to have colonists live on their land. He also asked the Yamacraw what problems they wanted to resolve among the trading system, as it was largely unregulated, meaning it had very few rules. And this led to disagreements. Therefore, James Oglethorpe created a law that required anyone who wanted to trade with the Indians to have a license to do so. All of these discussions led to the two different cultures benefiting from one another and creating a peaceful and friendly relationship. I recall fondly when General Oglethorpe left the Georgia colony in 1743 to return to his home in England. Before leaving, he met with me and gave me a precious gift. He took a diamond ring from his very own finger and gave it to me. I was so sad to see the general go. After 10 years of working together through challenging negotiations, successful peace deals, and dire situations, we had become very good friends who showed each other deep respect. For as long as I live, I will try to honor the general's hopes for this colony. It is now up to the people of this colony. No one person can sustain peace or conflict. It must be a collective effort. I do hope you'll join me in making this colony peaceful and prosperous for all who live here. But for now, I'm sure you have questions for me, and I'm happy to answer them as best as I can. I was born around the year 1700 in the Coweta region of the Creek Nation in what is now the colony of Georgia. I spent much of my childhood in the South Carolina colony near a town called Ponpon. My earliest years were spent with my grandmother among the Creek in the village of Coweta. I learned the ways of the Creek and what was expected of women. Farming was a woman's duty, and so I learned how to grow and harvest crops such as corn, squash, and beans. We lived much of our lives outside, but our homes were well constructed from wood, mud, and thatch, with a fireplace in the middle and a hole in the roof for the smoke to escape. I took part in our traditional ceremonies throughout the year to celebrate the seasons, to bless our harvest and our hunters, and to show our gratitude for what the Creator had provided us. I have experienced tragedy in my marriages many times due to sickness. It is very difficult for us to get well from disease that we do not know how to treat or cure. My first husband, John Musgrove, was my longest marriage, about 23 years, but he sadly died of disease. I then married Jacob Matthews, who was actually my former husband's servant. We were together for about 7 years until he too died of a serious illness. I then married a Christian missionary named Thomas Bosomworth, who I am happy to say is healthy and well. We both run the trading post together now. I do not have any children. I did have 3 babies, but they sadly died when they were still infants. This is very common among women here, and it is heartbreaking. We do not have the medical knowledge to prevent these deaths. I do hope that we will learn how to prevent this someday. You must have a great deal of patience when you are an interpreter, and you must be able to listen very carefully. You have a very important job. The way you interpret what is said matters a lot. If you were to say something incorrectly or give a different interpretation, it could lead to complications and misunderstandings. I would listen to General Oglethorpe state one idea, usually in a very simple way, such as, "We would like to trade goods with your people." And the Chief Tomochichi might ask a question such as, "What kind of goods and for what?" We would go from one simple statement or question to the other. This could last hours sometimes, but I felt very proud of the service I provided to ensure peace in our community. Chief Tomochichi was a great leader of the Yamacraw and a good deal maker. He helped to create friendships between the white colonists and the Yamacraw tribe. So many interactions between the native people of this land and the white people who come here have been hostile or violent. It took peace and goodwill on both sides to make good deals between the tribes and the white people. Tomochichi was fair, respectful, and worked with General Oglethorpe to make deals that helped both the white people and the Yamacraw. I have a very poor opinion of the trustees, those who oversee the governance of this new colony. General Oglethorpe has shown me respect, kindness, and has attempted to do right by me. But the trustees who remained in England did not show me anything of the sort. I have not been paid fairly for the important work that I have done for this colony. I believe that this is in part due to my being a woman. These trustees have not met me. They have not seen the complexity of my work as a negotiator, and they clearly have not appreciated this. There are many different kinds of people in the colony of Georgia. There are those who have come to repay their debts through work, those that seek to own land for the first time, as land is scarce in England. There are Protestant Christians and even Jews fleeing religious persecution in Europe. Germans, called Salzburgers, have also made a community here to practice their Christianity. All of these cultures bring something unique to this colony, and I trade with practically all of them. We do face a great many dangers in the colony. The greatest danger, in my opinion, is that of disease. I have lost 2 husbands to sickness, and that is a pain that remains with me today. We also face the dangers of clashes between cultures. While the colony's diversity is one of its greatest strengths, differences among people can create tension. I have often been a calming presence among men in my post who disagree on this or that. But perhaps the most imminent danger has been that of the Spanish military, which surrounds the colony. I know that General Oglethorpe has been a part of the military strategy to protect this colony from the Spanish. I thank you all for visiting me today at my trading post. I hope that you too will find a home in this new colony. If you need any supplies, please visit me again.
Mary Musgrove eventually did receive compensation for her work in 1760, well over a decade from when she conducted her work with Oglethorpe, which included the title to St. Catherine's Island, where she lived the remainder of her life. This took quite a bit of effort, even traveling to England to make her case, but in the end, she did prevail. However, she did not get to enjoy this land for long, as she died in 1765, apparently peacefully in her sleep. Now, if you would like to learn even more, we have resources linked in the video description. We want to thank all of our members for joining us today on our time-traveling adventure, and if you are a teacher or a homeschool group leader in Georgia, you can schedule your very own time-traveling adventure for free thanks to the Cottrell Digital Studio. Please let us know in the comments below who you would like to meet next time. All right, take care, everyone.